And welcome back to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from Kevin S. We'll say, because I could tell he's putting an S there. I'll have to do a better job at writing down the names in the future. But Kevin asked the question, who would win a fight? Freddy Krueger or Matt Cordell, who is from the Maniac Cop series. So Matt Cordell is kind of a Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees type character in the sense that he is a physical, impervious to harm kind of supernatural killer. Now, obviously, he's not exactly like Jason or Michael Myers. Let's get that out of the way right now. I'm not saying he's a 1-1 comparison. But he's that style of killer. Someone who's been brought back from the dead multiple times, or resurrected, or is just somehow very powerful without any real clear-cut explanation of why. All we know is he was revived, and he kept going on his killing spree. It's not that he was a dirty cop. He was just Dirty Harry, a guy who didn't play by the rules times 100. And therefore he, killed villains, but he killed bad guys, but also killed innocents too. And gets brought up in some of the sequels. However, he is still extremely powerful, for this type of character. Physically powerful, was able to smash through walls. It still retains his knowledge of combat training, firearms training, all that. So when he has weapons on call, he's actually very skilled at using them. He's basically got an immunity to pain. Not nigh invulnerable, but he's got a pretty high damage tolerance. And every time one of the movies ends, his hand is seen either coming out of something or moving to indicate that despite the fact he was defeated, he is, still alive. Freddy Krueger, we already know. We know Freddy at this point. God knows how many times he's been on the channel at this point. But Freddy Krueger was a child murderer / pedophile, depending on the version you look at. The pedophile thing in the original is alluded to. In the reboot, it's flat out acknowledged. Oh, this guy was a pedophile. Who the parents at Elm Street, took their parents took their revenge on me. When I was alive, I may have been a little naughty. But he basically sold his soul to dream demons. The guys who gave me this job. And became the Sandman. He only exists within your dreams, but he will haunt you in your dreams. And he is the master of the dream world. He is nigh omnipotent in the dream world. He can do pretty much anything he wants while dreaming. The question is not if someone can beat him in the dream world. Okay, let me rephrase that. The question is not if Matt can beat him in the dream world. Because the truth is, there aren't a lot of people who can beat him in the dream world. Even the people we see who match him in the dream world can't outright beat him in the dream world. So, we could maybe go into the comics for a little bit of, see if that works at all. But, yeah, Freddy is... in the dream world, that's Freddy's turf, and if you need to fight Freddy, you need to bring him into the real world. So let's get it out of the way right now. That in the dream world, Matt's going to lose that fight. There's just Matt might be able to be like a Jason and kind of just power through a lot what Freddy can throw at him, but ultimately he's just not going to be able to do anything to Freddy to put him down. This is assuming, of course, Matt sleeps and is able to dream in general. The question will be, is Freddy capable of beating him in the real world? And in the real world, what does Freddy have to go with? Well, he's still got all of his intelligence. Freddy's very intelligent and very clever. He's also pretty, he's not like super speed or anything, but he's, compared to someone like Jason or Michael Myers, he's actually on the faster side. He's pretty quick. Obviously, he wields his little knife glove. He wields his knife glove. But other than that, though, he actually is not all that powerful. He keeps a little bit of his ability to warp reality in the real world. It's not a lot, though. You see that in, I believe, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, where he sets a pool on fire, if I'm not mistaken. I remember something happened in that. I just can't remember what it was. But he does have a mild bit of reality warping in the real world, but nowhere near enough to really even be that lethal. To a degree, it all depends on everyone else, because his power does come similar to like Pennywise from the fear and memory of him. If only a couple people know who he is, well then it doesn't really matter if he's in the real world or not. He doesn't really have a lot to bring to the table. But if the whole town was afraid of him, the memory Freddy Krueger lived on, well, that's different. Uh, Freddy, though, I mean, he's not like a skilled fighter or anything like that. He is, I mean, we see in Freddy versus Jason, canonicity regardless, that even in the real world, the dude can take a beating. Hell, even in Freddy's Dead, he literally had dynamite shoved in his gut. I think he lost his hand chopped off too, and he was still kicking for what it's worth. Um, for what it's worth, but ultimately got blown up, and then he was done. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that Freddy has going for him. Not really in the real world. Honestly, not. So, like I said, in the dream world, Freddy's going to have the clear-cut advantage against a character like this. He's going to have the clear-cut advantage against a character like this. Now, again, a character like this. Other characters, that's different. There are other characters in who, if in a dream world, might be able to fare against Freddy better. But in this case, yeah, Matt's just isn't going to fare well in the dream world. In the real world, however, this is I imagine it's something akin to the Freddy versus Jason fight, but Maniac Cop, or Matt Cordell, or Matt, is actually a lot faster than what we see Jason kind of moving, or how we see Jason moving most of the time. There might be an implied teleportation ability, but it's 80s slasher more than anything else. Similar to the Jason thing. The games give him like a teleportation ability, but that's because of how he seems to be able to just appear in places. There's no... Because, again, if he could truly teleport, he'd just go wherever he wants. And that's clearly not the case. So, yeah. But he's also got a high pain tolerance, like near pain immunity, and high durability. So Freddy being able to do anything against him physically, it's all dependent on the environment. If it's taking place in the same place the finale of, like, Freddy vs. Jason took place in, well... Yeah, he might be able to do some of the things he did to Jason to Matt. But that doesn't mean Matt's going down. And Matt carries firearms. And Freddy, in the real world, still isn't immune to firearms. So, and he doesn't carry a machete that could be exploited like Jason. So, I mean, unless he completely takes Matt's gun from him, similar to how he took Jason's machete, and Matt didn't run out of firepower, well, it doesn't really matter how the fight ultimately would play out, because if he doesn't have any shells in there, all he's going to do is try to beat Matt with it. Unless he's dismembering the dude, Matt's just eventually going to be like, okay, that's enough, and then start wailing on him. This is not a fight in the real world I think Freddy can win. Matt's a character that comes in very much more prepared than someone like a Jason or a Michael Myers, who usually only have one type of weapon on call. Sometimes, depending on the interpretation, more than one with Jason, but even then. And the weapons being multiple firearms, which are more damaging overall than, say, a machete is, unless you're trying to dismember someone. So, I think Freddy would just be trying to stay away and trying to maybe, like, sneak up on Matt until he ultimately does, stabs him a couple times, and Matt just blows him away with a shotgun before he just starts blowing his head off and all that. So, real world, I think Freddy doesn't fare very well here. Even the mild bit of reality warping he has, I don't think really helps in this fight. I think Freddy is just kind of outclassed in a fight like this in the real world. In the dream world, obviously my money is still going to go on Freddy. Matt's not a type of character who would win in the dream world, in my opinion. Just because even though he is more intelligent than someone like like a Jason, Michael's up for debate how intelligent he really is. He's not dumb, but he's not, like, genius or anything like that. And Matt's got, like, combat training and strategy behind him. But beyond that, I mean, he's still motivated by rage and all that. So I don't see him being someone who could, like, really outsmart Freddy very well. So in the dream world, Matt, I think, is going to take the L. But Freddy would definitely take the L, I think, in the real world. So it's a 50-50 split. Ultimately, it all depends on what you think. Do you think Freddy would win more oftentimes than not, even in the real world? Do you think Freddy could get any amount of wins off in the real world? Or do you think Matt's going to take the majority? Hypothetically speaking, there might be a couple scenarios where Freddy takes the win in the real world. There might be. So if you actually do the math on that, even if it's like a 10% chance, that means 90% of the time Matt's going to win that, but Freddy is ultimately going to win in the dream world, which hypothetically means that Freddy wins the majority. I don't really like that myself, but it would all depend on, is there a scenario where Matt could win the dream world? And I just don't think there is. Hell, even at least, and again, the movie's not canon, but Jason couldn't beat Freddy in the dream world because Freddy was able to exploit that version of Jason's fears. It'd be the same thing here ultimately. So until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Freddy in the dream, Matt in the real world. Until then, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.